Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 most addictive fragrances, so stay tuned for that. If you like fragrance reviews, top 10s lists, cologne comparisons, and first impressions, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So, this video, in this one, I said about 10 fragrances that, essentially, there's two main ideas. One, they're fragrances that, when I first put them on, or whenever I put them on, they're fragrances that I will keep smelling or bring me back to continuing to smell the fragrance. And the other thing is, they are fragrances that had some kind of a wow factor for me that ultimately when I come back to the fragrance, maybe it's been a week, maybe it's been a month, it brings back the wow factor. It brings back that effect. And so here are 10 lists that for me, just keep sniffing because I love them. So I'm going to start off at the bottom of the list. This was one of the first fragrances that I really ever, not the first fragrance I bought, but one of the first fragrances I bought. And this one, you know, I first sprayed it on, kept smelling my hand. I was very happy with it. I loved it. And even now that I don't wear it that much, I'll smell it every once in a while, or I'll wear it once in a while. And, you know, it just brings back that good feeling that I had, that really strong impression. And that is none other than Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Now, for me, when it comes to smell, this is the best one, personally. It isn't the best performance if you're looking for projection. This does sit a little closer to the skin, but it is, to me, such a pleasant, easy-to-wear, inviting fragrance that just, it's very well-rounded. It's very well-balanced. It does kind of have that shower gel vibe, that clean vibe to it, but there's something in this. It gives it a lot of character, but it's very smoothed out. So I find the EDT and the EDP especially, although I do like them, especially if you smell them close, they kind of burn the nose. So this one, it's been smoothed out, and it doesn't really have that effect. So it is very rich, very deep, and it just still has a bit of that wow factor when I come back to it. And even after smelling tons of niche fragrances and tons of other fragrances, you know, this is a basic blue fragrance, but it just does it really, really well. Do really enjoy this one, and I will end up keeping this one until I end up using it, and who knows what I'll get in place of that. We'll see. But that is number 10. Now, number 9, this is one that I did enjoy a lot when it first came out. Now, it was re-released later because it had performance issues. And that is, of course, Parfums de Marly Sedley. And this is one that, you know, I'll pick it up and I'll smell the cap, or I'll smell a bottle of it when I have it. And especially when you spray this one on, it just has this bright, citrusy, effervescent, bubbly, fizzy kind of an opening that does last a long time. And it is really enjoyable, very easy to wear. And it's kind of, I suppose, in a way, a PDM blue fragrance. But it is one that prompted me, especially once they fixed the issues, to even buy it after, you know, having smelled it, and I enjoyed it a lot, but I hated the performance issues. But that being said, I do think this is probably my favorite of the Parfums de Marly Freshies. I do also like Galloway, and you know, Percival is a nice, easy to wear fragrance, but this one's the best one in my opinion, and it does keep me coming back. The next one is another cheapie, and it is one that I think really was a gateway fragrance for me in a lot of ways, and that's one reason why, you know, it keeps bringing me back with just how simple and yet how good it is, and of course that is Noir Sport. You know, it has that dark kind of inky vetiver that turns into a nice kind of marshy vibe, and I do really like that in a vetiver fragrance when it has what I tend to think of as, or paints the image of, a marsh, and this does that very, very well. And ultimately, this is a fragrance you can get for about $25, but the quality is very, very high, and it is, in my opinion, one of the best vetiver dominant fragrances for sure. It's very high quality, you know, but it is just very inexpensive. And if you want something that is, I mean, it is a bit of a polarizing fragrance, but if you want to try a really high quality vetiver fragrance for a very inexpensive price, I think Noir Sport is probably one of the best choices, if not the best choice you can go with. And it was really the gateway for me into vetiver fragrances or vetiver dominant fragrances. I'd never really had many, and wasn't that into them, but this one did it for me, and it's just such a nice one to wear, I think, in the spring. So I do enjoy this one quite a bit. It certainly has me sniffing the nozzle. The next one really is, in my opinion, a heavy hitter. It certainly, put me back in my seat when I first smelled it. It had that absolute wow effect, and that is Maxos by Xerjoff. I mean, I don't really know if I need to talk about this one because it's been talked about a lot. And it's just such a nice, well-balanced, luxurious, clean, but not in the sense of smelling clean, tobacco fragrance. It has that beautiful honey and that nice, rich tobacco behind it that just gives it so much character. And yes, it does smell similar to Pure Havane, but ultimately this is the better fragrance. The performance is amazing, and it is still one that I'll smell occasionally when I look through my collection, or when I come back to this one after not having worn it for a while. It still has that effect on me. It still gives me that wow factor. So I really do like this one. If you like Pure Havane, you will most certainly like this one, and I do think it's worth a try. It is a good introduction fragrance for Xerjoff. There's a lot of fragrances to sort of work through and to try and to find, but this one to me is one of their best still, and it's a lot easier to get than Italica, which of course I was tempted to put on this list, but because it's so hard to get, I decided not to, and of course I went with Naxos. Amazing fragrance. Now the next one is one I actually recently just added to my collection, and it is precisely because it is quite an addictive scent, and that is Single Malt by Kilian. This was my scent of the day today, and it is just this boozy plum that reminds me a little bit more of rye whiskey. It has some woody undertones, and it just works really, really well. And this is one that I feel you can spray a little bit more of because it isn't a beast mode fragrance. It does have more of a subtle airiness to it. Although it's not super thick is what I mean to say. It's not a very, very thick fragrance, even though it is something that is often worn fall and winter. It is that kind of fragrance. It's a little bit sweet, boozy, plum, and it just works so well. It is one of those very classy gentleman fragrances, and the quality on this one is top notch. Absolutely beautiful. Do love this one. Happy to have it in my collection, and that one is number 5. Now, the addictive quality of actually that was number 6. This is number 5. The addictive quality on this one is actually what made me start to really like this fragrance, as I wasn't super into it at first, and that of course is Exalt Nuit. And this one just has this really dark, mysterious, dark black licorice vibe that has a little bit of a almost chocolatey feel to it, and a very rich, robust tobacco. Now, at times, the tobacco does come off smelling a little bit like wet tobacco, which might remind you of something like red tobacco. But to me, this does smell unique, and it does smell different. And it is one of those really great, I think, dark, enigmatic, gentleman's fragrances. And as I've said before, probably will say again, out of all of the releases that have been coming out lately from reviewers, this is by far my favorite one. Just very well put together, and to me it does feel like the most original of all of them, although it does have, just a tiny feel of that red tobacco, as I mentioned. Beautiful, sweet, fluffy, kind of full tobacco, rich dry down as well. That is very, very enjoyable, very easy to wear. So this one is dark, mysterious, and yet sensual and seductive. So very, very good. And the next one was one that I took a couple sniffs of this one, and I fell in love. Totally enamored with it. And it was one that was actually hard to find. This was before I was really buying stuff on the gray market. And I was really blown away that a fragrance could even be like this. And that is Dolce Gabbana The One. I put a little bit of a dent in it. It is one that I don't wear, daily, although you can. It is often something I'll wear on a date, although to me this is very versatile, very easy to like. I've worn it to work. You can wear it out and about, whatever. And it is one that just is really well received by people. But It is such a well done tobacco fragrance. I remember still, this is a couple months back, and I wore this fragrance. I sprayed it on, and when I got that initial burst before I was going out, smell my sillage. I just, took a couple minutes, sat back in my chair, and enjoyed the sillage for myself because it is so well done. Now, performance, as everybody knows, this fragrance doesn't perform the best. I find it's not bad. I get about 6 hours of it, which is not dreadful. If I'm going to be out for a while, I might bring a decant with me. But projection, a couple hours as well. So it is not terrible in my opinion. Considering how good this fragrance is, I don't mind that much. And it's not that expensive. So for me, it's okay. But I do love the way it smells. And it definitely gets a pass because of that. This is one of those classic fragrances that I think is always, always, always going to be cool. It's always going to be something that you can wear. 10 years from now, I think this will still work. It doesn't, it's already like 10 years old if I'm not mistaken. And, it doesn't smell dated or old at all even now. So that is my thoughts on that one. And I do love that one. This one, the next one, number 3. It's interesting because I find this is one that I'll pick up and sniff a lot more than I actually wear. And that is Initio Side Effect. And it really does have that sweet cinnamon. Reminds me very much of like Rum and Orange Crush in the opening. It's so boozy, it's almost aquatic. And it just smells so good. And it just keeps me coming back to this fragrance to smell it and smell it and smell it. Because it is a well done, boozy tobacco fragrance. Performance exceptional on this one. And it is one I definitely recommend trying. It is this and Rehab so far are my favorite Initio. But to be fair, I haven't actually tried all of their fragrances. But I would definitely recommend trying this one along with Rehab if you get the chance to get a sample. And very, very good. And the next one. This one I do talk about a little bit. I know some other channels have talked about it a little bit. I don't think it gets as much love as it should. This is the king of the apple pie fragrances, and that's Rosé All Day. It's funny, somebody posted the other day that the expectation is that this one is going to smell like apple pie, and it ends up smelling like an oil refinery. I don't know where they're getting that from, personally. I don't get any kind of that oily or gasoline kind of a vibe. This one opens up like a very boozy apple pie. And there aren't any boozy notes in it, but I think the thing is it's very syrupy sweet. Has that apple crisp note. There is plum in there. You get a little bit of the rose, which I'm happy it's not too strong because I think it would be out of place for the composition if it was very strong. But it has so much richness, so much depth. It's such a luxurious fragrance. It's so thick. And, it's just one of these ones that for me, it's a pleasure to wear. And I don't go too heavy on it because it does perform very well. So this bottle will probably last me a long, long time. But it is such a great, luxurious apple pie fragrance. And the number 1 spot, this was the first fragrance from Kerosene that I ever bought. And that is none other than Unknown Pleasures. Now, after trying this fragrance, I got a sample with it that was Blackmail, and another one, I got Blackmail. Blackmail for a while ended up being my favorite Kerosene, but this one, just because of that quality and why it's on this list, is that it just kept me coming back, and it eventually overtook Blackmail as my favorite. I do love gourmands, and to me, this is a fairly unique. I can't think of another gourmand that has this sugary waffle cone vibe that this one has. It's also my most complimented gourmand fragrance. And you know what? It just performs exceptionally. The projection is there. The quality is there. Everything is there. It's a really, really good fragrance. And I think if you're going to try Kerosene, this is definitely one that you should consider starting with. They have other great ones, Sweetly Known, Blackmail, as I mentioned, Follow if you love coffee fragrances. But this one just has that quality that definitely brings me back. And like I said, there is a definite uniqueness there that, a lot of fragrances don't really have. So I would say fantastic fragrance, fantastic gourmand. So for you guys, leave a comment down below. What is your or the most addictive fragrance in your collection? leave a comment down below. And as always, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.